This podcast is brought to you from the MyPerks Lounge here in the Vancouver Mall in Vancouver, Washington State. Learn more at shopvancouvermall.com. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Reconsider Reality podcast. I'm your host, Tate Weaver, joined by my two co-hosts, Spencer and Max McCuddy. And because this is the very first episode, I think some introductions are in line. So again, my name's Tate. I'm 24 years old. I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. I'm the founder and executive director of a small nonprofit called See Difference. I like to skydive when possible. I like to travel. I spent a lot of time abroad experiencing different cultures and different perspectives. And because of that, I feel like I'm uniquely equipped to talk about a lot of the highly speculative and conspiracy-based topics that we're going to be talking about in this podcast. Max?
My name is Max McCuddy. I'm 21 years old, grew up here in Clark County, Washington. Real estate agent right out of high school, still doing it full-time, and happy to be on the podcast.
Hey, I'm Spencer. I was invited here by Tate. Him and I actually met through work, and I am happy to be here as well.
Today's episode is a real special one. It's covering the gateway process. The gateway process is the very first thing I learned about that took me down the rabbit hole of questioning reality as we know it, higher states of mind, meditation. All of it came from my learnings of this. The gateway process is an extensive piece of research that was released by the CIA, the American CIA, in 2002. A man named Robert Monroe was commissioned by the CIA to carry out this project for CIA operatives in the early 1980s, I believe 1983. He was a man that founded an institute called the Monroe Institute, and it has to do with researching higher states of mind, different forms of meditation, and the way that different frequencies, sound frequencies, can react with the human mind. He was commissioned by the CIA to create a step-by-step audiophile guide that CIA operatives could listen to supposedly escape their physical bodies and escape the physical three-dimensional realm that we all live in. This is crazy, and a lot of it is still highly speculative, but it was extensively researched by the American CIA.
And you said you could find it on the CIA website.
You can. I'm going to put a video above of how you can find it on the CIA's website. They have a separate website for archives, but it's still a federal government website, and you can find it there. But it's not their primary website. But nonetheless, they released this extensive 36-page document, that thesis, if you will, going into the research, their findings, and essentially how to astral project. In addition to many, many other things. There's a ton of things that they do, and they use their own terminology for them, but a lot of the things that they cover in the project are astral projection, manifestation, spiritual healing, and a few others, but they have their own names for them.
So is astral projection, is that easy to do?
No, it's incredibly hard. So I've got in front of us here the full printed 36-page document of the gateway process. And they say that there's only one tape, and I've listened to this specific tape. I guess I should preface by saying there are 36 tapes in addition to 36 pages, a 36-page document and 36 tapes to accompany it that you can listen to.
So do you know how long they've had this information secretive?
So if they had it highly classified in 1983 and it was released in 2002, then I think 29 years it was secret.
Wow.
And it poses a big question, which I want to get into more at the end. But if they had this information in the 1980s, what do you think they're working on now?
What do they know about it now,
Seriously,
too? Because obviously you can't think that they've released everything on astral projection.
Definitely not. There's some speculation as to whether or not there are some missing pages in these documents as well, which is really interesting. We'll get into that later.
Is there a clear indication that there's like page breaks?
No, not to the best of my knowledge. But then again, this was in the 1980s. These documents were typed out by a typewriter, and then they were photocopied and digitally remastered, so to speak.
Wow.
It's really interesting. But no, there doesn't appear to be anything missing. But if it was maybe towards the end, after the analysis itself had concluded, then there could be missing pages that you can't really tell are missing. So these documents and all the media that came with it was declassified in 2002, and you can find the documents on the CIA website. The audio files are a little bit harder to come by, but you can still find them. I don't condone doing so, but sometimes they're uploaded to YouTube, and you can rip the audio out of the YouTube video and save them for yourself.
Have you listened to all of them?
No, not yet. So Spencer knows this, but I started using the gateway process. What I mean by that is listening to these audio files. They're guided meditations. I started listening to these meditation audio guides back in like June or July of 2021. So I've been listening to these for like 8 or 9 months now. So there are 6 chapters, so to speak, of these audio files. Each of them has 6 parts. It's called Threshold 1 through Threshold 6. I'm on Threshold 2, Episode 3 right now. So I'm on the 2nd chapter, and I'm halfway through that. So I'm not even halfway through.
So it's taking a long time to get through to these,
definitely.
huh?
I'm sure I could get through it faster, but I'm trying to make sure that I have an extensive understanding of each topic within one specific tape before I move on to the next.
So what are involved in these guided meditations? What kind of...
What's involved?
I mean, it's a frequency
What do they
thing,
teach
isn't
you
it?
when you're meditating?
Yeah. So the Gateway audio files employ a technique developed by the Monroe Institute called hemisync. And essentially, it's the synchronization of the left and right hemisphere of the human brain. The left hemisphere of the human brain deals with the absorption of information and the determination as to what it wants to do with that information. The right hemisphere of the brain actually acts out the thoughts and the determinations of the left hemisphere of the brain. What I mean by that is if you're in a fight with somebody and you decide that you want to punch the person on the left side of their face, you're going to process and think about doing that with the left hemisphere of your brain. Once you've decided via your own cognitive judgment that that's what you want to do, you're going to pass it over to the right hemisphere of your brain to actually act out that motion. Use your arm and use your hand to punch that person. What's interesting is when you achieve hemispherical synchronization, you can bypass the judgment zone of the left hemisphere of the brain and just go straight to the right hemisphere of the brain where you actually act out things. What this means is, or rather what they do in order to achieve this, is they play 2 frequencies, and you have to listen to these audio tapes in stereo headphones. It plays 1 frequency in your left ear, 1 frequency in your right ear, and what you hear, what your brain chooses to hear, as opposed to these 2 different frequencies, it hears the frequency in between, which is really interesting.
Do you think people can reach this stage without actually even listening to this? Because when you start talking about bypassing the thinking of it, I think of kids. You know what I mean? Like they're taught over time to, think before they do. But when you think about kids and how they just kind of act, just kind of
Naturally.
like just
instinct.
I just want there's stories of like, and this is kind of getting off topic a bit, but there's stories of kids like being or remembering their past self, and then as time goes on they completely forget about it, just because of society and just learning new things as your current form. And I just wonder if kids kind of have that capability, without listening to the hemispherical
frequency levels.
frequencies. Yeah.
Sure. So that's interesting. I don't know whether or not that's possible, but they have done studies. They have done brainwave scans on individuals to see when and where hemisynchronization or synchronization of the 2 hemispheres does occur, and it does. It does for very, very, very short bursts of time in day-to-day life, or for extended periods of time for individuals that have been meditating for upwards of 20 years.
Yeah. Monks.
Excruciatingly. Yeah, so essentially monks are said to be able to do this after dedicating their lives to the practice of meditation in whatever form that they're using. They can achieve hemispherical synchronization within their own brains, which is crazy.
Crazy how long they can meditate.
Forever,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. And you've talked to some before, huh?
I have. Yeah. I spent some time in Thailand with some monks, and I guess that really kickstarted everything. But once I discovered the gateway process and the subsequent audio files, that's when my interest in this really took off. But what's really interesting is they claim via the research in these tapes that you can do what monks can do in 20 years. Yeah.
It's got to put monks to shame.
The cognitive,
really
the cognitive abilities that you can bring into your own mind via these tapes and the frequencies that you're listening to are similar to that can be naturally achieved via many, 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 many years of devotion and practice.
Are monks aware of this?
I hope not, dude.
Because
They're probably in
disappointed.
Southeast Asia upset right now.
Yeah. He's probably the guy that's hitting his like enlightenment phase.
Yeah, after
And
74 years.
Some guy comes up on a travel visit and he's like, "Yo, there was a video of someone doing what you're doing in a matter of 10 minutes."
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Watch this.
"Oh, fuck. You're kidding me."
Now, I made a joke to you one time that I get into a deep meditative state and I astral project. I leave my body. I'm in like the 6th dimension and I meet up with this monk that's also there at the same time.
What's up, dude? What's up, bro?
I'm 22 years old. I work at Paxson. He's devoted 80 years of his life.
And he hasn't even been able to escape his body yet. He's just been watching
funny.
But it's insane because they claim that this is scientific fact, that you can achieve hemispherical synchronization for sustained periods of time.
Have you heard of anyone that's done it?
Personally?
Besides monks? Yeah, like just maybe through YouTube videos or whatever.
Oh,
Have you seen
just-
people try this?
No, this is something that, from what I understand, cannot be naturally achieved for any extended period of time unless you're specifically devoting a lot of time towards making this happen.
I'm thinking if there's a YouTube video out there where there's a guy filming himself playing those frequency sounds and just seeing what happens just outside of what he's doing in his mind.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this: if I was watching you, listening to the files or whatever, I mean, is there like a physical difference in how your body's acting?
No, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely not. So the way that the tapes work is, well, there's a few steps when you start. The very first step is what's called it's called an energy conversion box. That's the very first step. You envision an energy conversion box in your mind, and you place everything within this box you think could distract you during a meditation.
Just thoughts. These are just thoughts.
Yep, thoughts in every capacity, because in a meditation you're supposed to be void of thought that could distract you from focusing on the present moment. So every time I meditate, I'll be honest, like I place girls into the box, I place work, I place...
And this alone has
MILFs.
to be hard to do, just putting these thoughts away.
MILFs, yeah, suppressing that is difficult. Yeah, but I put girls, I put work, I put... anything else that I have going on in my mind, pending something that I need to deal with, in order to write it off temporarily so that I do not acknowledge it, I place it into this box.
And how long does it take you to kind of put everything in this box? Like, just while you're meditating, do you have an
Just
idea
a
of
few
how long it
seconds.
takes? Okay.
Yeah, this is the very first thing I do. I sit down, I close my eyes.
And you're just visualizing it.
Yep, I put in my
putting those thoughts
AirPods, which are stereo, so I have the right signal and the left signal independently. And then I envision my energy conversion box. I throw everything that could be a distraction into that box. I seal the box, and then you do what's called a resonant tuning. And you get in these audio files this really, really, really eerie man humming at a certain frequency, and you're supposed to hum with him. When you do that, when you match the frequency, it resonates within your head, and you feel the vibrating tone within your head.
You want to give us
it's
an
really
example
cool.
of this hum?
No, I don't. Not right now. But it's really interesting. It's this really eerie humming sound for 30, 45 seconds, and you hum along with it. And then you can consider yourself resonantly tuned.
It takes about 30, 40 seconds to kind of reach that level.
Somewhere within that, yeah.
Not really a
And
level.
this
Does
level,
this come
yeah.
with experience
Tuning.
of meditating? Or?
No, you can do it your very first time. You can
Really?
resonant tune your very first time. Yeah. So once you've put all your distractions in the energy conversion box, closed it, you've resonant tuned by humming at a certain frequency, and then you move into the highest level of focus that you're capable of. I think you go into focus 10 first. So there's focus 10, there's focus 12, focus 15, and focus 21. Focus 10 is, I believe, the state that you're in the very first time they want you to practice an out-of-body movement, which is where your consciousness separates from your physical body. When you move into focus 12, that's when you get to start playing around with a lot of things that have existed for a very long time. These guys that developed the gateway process, the concepts that they have employed the methods that they have employed are ways that people that are inexperienced at meditating can reach and do a lot of the things that people have been doing for thousands of years. I'm sure both of you guys have heard about manifestation, thinking about something, devoting energy to it, and trying to bring it into the physical realm.
Yeah.
And that's almost not almost, but it is at a subconscious level. I mean, you're you're trying to train your subconscious mind to work for you, while your active mind or your, conscious mind is doing other things.
Definitely. So they call that patterning in this. Within the gateway files, they call it patterning, but
It's the
it's
same as-
manifestation.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. This is their own line of research, and they have their own terminology for everything. But they are concepts that have long existed, which is really interesting. Once you've moved into Focus 12, you can work on patterning, and you set patterns that you would like to achieve in your day-to-day life. You put those out into the universal consciousness or to your higher self. You wake up from the meditation and you try and employ those in your day-to-day life. And whether or not it's real or it's just placebo, the idea that you've sent that out and you believe it's going to work, may or may not help you achieve those things. Waking up earlier, waking up consistently, feeling healthier, mitigating distractions in your life, whatever you want to manifest or pattern in the gateway tapes, it teaches you to do once you've hit a higher level of focus called Focus 12. These levels of focus, they have to do with how calm and relaxed your physical body is. When you move into Focus 10 for the first time, they teach you to do it by sitting down in a relaxed position. I think they recommend sitting down as opposed to lying down, but whatever keeps you consciously awake. But they go by piece of your body, and they tell you to relax. That they tell you to relax your
What have you
fingers, your
gotten to?
arms. Huh?
What have you
12.
gotten to? You've gotten to 12.
Yep.
Okay.
You do 12 for quite a while, but I'm just before the tapes where you go into focus 15. But truth be told, I'm definitely not ready for that because it's really complex.
What's the difference from 12 to 15?
Focus 15 is where you remote view, or you out of body view something in the past. And then focus 21 is where you remote view, you separate your consciousness from your physical body, and you view something in the future.
What's the
which-
present?
The present is just focus 10 and focus 12.
Okay. From the future.
So to rewind real quick, because you've told Spencer and I before, and this I thought was super interesting, is why Monroe even created this. What made him dive into this?
I have no idea, truth be told, how
There
we
was
got into
something
this.
about like a war or something that you said that they would use to go and.
Yeah, okay. So Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute had existed long before he was commissioned by the CIA.
Okay.
But if I am not mistaken, the CIA commissioned him because they wanted CIA operatives to be able to remote view or astral project to receive intel on Russian operatives because this was in the 80s during the Cold War. So the concept behind this is, as far as I know, is that they wanted to initially develop this entire series of training audio files specifically for CIA operatives. This was never supposed to be for the public. It was supposed to be for the US military so that they could learn how to expand their consciousness, leave the physical realm, and essentially see different areas of the world, see different things that have happened in the past and will happen in the future so that they can gain intel as to how they should move forward in conflict and possible resolution with the Soviet Union and how they should proceed with their next moves.
Do we know if they're successful with this?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, are
no
there any
idea
leaked
this?
files on that, as far as you know?
So in terms of what it is that they derived in terms of information from Russia while they were astral projecting, I have no idea. But they speak in this packet that we have in front of us later about how they did a number of tests. And let me find this part. This is towards the end, but it's really interesting. Might as well get into it now.
Sure.
I'm curious to know if anyone else has dropped any kind of research on astral projection besides the CIA.
Definitely, there are mounds and mounds of research regarding astral projection, hemispherical synchronization, all sorts of things. But it's so easy to write these off as being,
Theoretical.
crazy people, theoretical,
Yeah.
stuff that is cool but doesn't exist. It's conspiracy based. It's hippie shit, whatever you want to call it. The reason that this is so profound is it lends incredible amounts of credibility to it.
And
The
this is
fact that was-
revolutionary
yeah,
for
yeah.
what we know.
This is the
human
revolutionary
species.
way to get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so here we go. So this is within the packet, the report, the thesis that was written about the Gateway experience that was supposed to go to the CIA, written by Robert Monroe when the audio files were first completed and research had been carried out. So number 33, information collection potential. Numerous experiments have been conducted involving persons moving from one coast to the other in the out-of-body state to read a series of 10 computer-generated numbers in a university laboratory. Although most have acquired enough of the digits to make clear that their consciousness was present, none have ever succeeded in getting all 10 correct. This seems to be a function of the fact that physical reality in the present is not the only holographic influence which the individuals may encounter in an out-of-body state. There are also energy patterns left by the people or events occurring at the same physical site being viewed, but from the past rather than the present.
How much of that could be luck, though? Getting the numbers right, since they didn't all get them at, all of them.
I don't know.
I mean, was it in order? Did they have to remember these numbers?
I don't. It doesn't specify further than that, but I would imagine it's not luck. The fact that they say enough of the numbers were gathered to determine that their consciousness was there. It was computer generated, and I think it was different numbers for every individual too.
How many individuals? 10?
It just says. I think it just says
Numerous.
numerous experiments have been
okay.
conducted with a number of
Crazy.
individuals. Yeah.
That's crazy that they can get disruptions from different timelines.
Yeah, so
same area.
what they claim is that you can astral project and you can do what they call remote viewing. You can send your consciousness to a different place in physical reality within the present moment. So if I was to astral project right now, I could send my consciousness back to Portland, Oregon, even though I'm sitting here in Vancouver, Washington. But whatever information I collect via that traveling of my conscious self may be distorted via other things that exist within the conscious energy field, including but not limited to the conscious projections of other people that are there. So within my apartment complex, I live alone, but maybe if I were to project my consciousness to my apartment right now, I might get energetic feedback from the conscious thoughts of my neighbors in the apartments, below me or beside me.
Can you tell us what you saw? Because I remember you telling me about the time you astral projected in your room and you
sure.
saw
Let's
a bunch of different stuff.
Get into it. So, like I said, I have been practicing this for like 8 or 9 months, and there is only one audio file within all 36 tapes that deals specifically with astral projection. But that's a big goal of mine for sure, just to prove to myself that this is all real. So there's one episode in particular after they have showed you how to physically calm your body and move through the different focus states, focus 10, subsequently focus 12. And what you're supposed to do is sit and relax your body to such an extent that your physical body is 100% asleep, but your conscious mind is fully aware, awake, and alert. So I'll be sitting there, and I've done this many times, and sometimes I'll completely fall asleep, which is a really, really weird phenomenon. You don't really think about this when you lay down and go to bed. You're laying down, and then you're tired, and then next thing you know, you wake up a couple hours later or the next day or whatever it is. But you don't really acknowledge the moment that you've fallen into unconscious sleep because you're sleeping. You don't acknowledge that. But when I'm sitting in one of these enhanced focus states and I start to drift from waking consciousness to sleeping consciousness, I can feel it happening and I can fight it off, and it's really strange.
Can you explain what it feels like?
Yes, it's really weird. So I'll be sitting and I'll be in focus 12. I've relaxed my legs, my feet, my arms, my hands, my fingers, my jaw, my eyelids, everything. My body is, for all intents and purposes, my body is completely asleep. But my mind will be awake. My body will be sitting there in my chair in my living room completely limp. But in my mind, I can go 8 times 8 is 64, 9 times 9 is 81. I'm still completely cognizant and thinking as fast as I do in regular waking life, even though my body is completely asleep. And I'll sit there and I'll be speaking to myself, having my internal monologue completely awake, and I'll start to have random thoughts that make no sense. I'll be saying to myself, I'm still awake, I'm in the gateway process, and then I'll suddenly say to myself, the governor's not here in the office right now. I'll just say something random and crazy. And what that is it's my unconscious sleep state taking over my conscious mind.
Your dream state?
My dream state essentially taking over my conscious mind, which is very creepy.
Yeah, very creepy.
It's still my mind, but my unconscious mind begins to take over my conscious mind. Yeah. And I can hear it and I can see it, and then I can
realize it. It's almost as if you were, I want to say, daydreaming.
So if you wanted to wake up, how quick could you actually wake up? From that state.
So when I wake up from this, I obviously am not trying to move my body or open my eyes or anything. I'm just trying to reclaim my conscious mind. So I'll just do it immediately.
You can just snap out of it like that.
I'll just snap out of it. It's like a trance almost. So I'll be sitting in my chair. I'll be saying, focus on the breath. I'm in focus 12. I'm in focus 12, and then it'll be like, and then my mind will say within itself, 12-foot granola bar. 12-foot granola bar available only
Is this something that's actually
at cdifference.com. No, just
random.
It's weirder than that. Yeah. And sometimes it won't be an internal monologue. Sometimes it'll be something I'll be seeing in my mind, like a dream. Sometimes I'll be seeing myself driving or whatever. And then I'll snap back into my waking consciousness and go, I didn't mean to think of myself driving.
That's very weird.
So that's my unconscious mind sleeping into a sleep stepping into a sleep state, and I'll go, I got to reclaim my conscious mind. In the wild, your unconscious sleep and your sleeping body go hand in hand. When your body goes to sleep, your brain goes to sleep, and that is a non-negotiable. That is how it is. When you're meditating and you're trying to move into a higher state of consciousness like this, your body needs to be completely asleep while your mind is completely awake.
How is your brain completely asleep? Because I always thought it was always on.
Your brain is always awake, but there's a huge distinction between waking consciousness and sleeping consciousness. One of them you have control of, and then the other one you don't. When you're in a sleeping consciousness, your brain does whatever it wants. You have dreams about the strangest things.
Sure.
And you view yourself typically as an individual within the dream as opposed to the one that's creating the dream. Unless you're having a lucid dream, most of the time you don't know you're in a dream because your sleeping consciousness has taken over. So you're not sentient or aware in the same capacity as you are when you're using your waking consciousness, what we're all using right now. So your physical body is asleep in these gateway audio tapes, but you're supposed to maintain waking consciousness, which is really hard. And my rate of doing these tapes successfully and just accidentally completely falling asleep is about 50-50, truth be told. My last day off, Thursday or Friday or whenever it was, I tried to do tape 4, I think, of Threshold 2, and I just fell asleep through it. So I'll have to retry
How quickly
that.
in did you fall asleep?
Do
you know how quickly in you fell asleep?
I lasted quite a while.
Yeah.
And I only fell asleep through part of it, but I missed some crucial information that I woke up towards the end. So Robert Monroe, the man that invented who was commissioned to do this, and he made the tapes. He's the one that voices everything. He's the one that gives you instructions through your ears as to what you do. Envision your energy conversion box. Now I want you to resonant tune. Now move into focus 12, and I'll meet you there. He'll say something along the lines of that.
Now I remember you saying you actually saw stuff.
Yeah. So I'm getting to that. So you'll move into your focus state, the highest state that you're in, and then in this one specific episode, or this one specific audio file, it was all about astral projection. It was all about leaving your physical body, and there's a method to it. He says, imagine yourself spinning like a vertical log. Just imagine your body spinning. And he'll say this slowly and in such a calm tone. And remember, throughout every single second of all of these audio files, you're hearing the 2 opposing frequencies in each ear. So you're bypassing the judgment phase of the left side of your brain, and you're just going right to the do-it phase of your
How
right
much
brain.
of this is hypnosis?
It is hypnosis.
Yeah.
It is absolutely hypnosis. Yep, that's what it is. And the hemisync technique is employed in different places too, but it's revolutionary using hypnosis in meditation to achieve things that you can't do unless you're a monk, which is crazy. So he'll say, imagine yourself spinning like a log. Imagine your energy rotating vertically. And as opposed to thinking about it on the left side of your brain and going, well, that's kind of silly. I can't do that. You just start doing it. You just start doing it because it goes directly to the right hemisphere of your brain. And then he says, now disconnect and go up slowly. And I did. And it was insane. But it was very strange because I meditate, or I do these audio files on a chair facing a big window I have in my living room. I like to do it during the day when the sun hits my face, even though my eyes are closed. And I like to do it when it's sunny especially, but I just do it whenever I can. So I was doing this particular practice, this session, on a sunny day, and I closed my eyes, and I started seeing all this visual phenomena. And he says, leave your body and go up and up and up. And I saw a visual depiction of my living room from an aerial view, but only my living room. So I didn't see what was beyond the door of my apartment. I didn't see what was beyond the window. I just saw like the 4 walls that make up my living room, which was very strange.
Could you see your bathroom? Because I know the layout of your room, so were you able to reach your bathroom?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It stopped right where that door for the hallway starts. So just the 4 walls. But what else was strange is it didn't look quite as my living room looks either. The way I could tell for sure it was my living room was, one, there was sun casting on my hardwood floor in the vision I saw, just like there was in real life at that time, because I was meditating in front of my window on a sunny day.
So the physical depiction of it was the same?
No, it was semi-accurate. It was enough for me to tell. Like, I could see that there was sun hitting the hardwood floor, and in real life there was sun hitting the hardwood floor, but every time I've been able to astral project to a minimal extent, I've never gone very far, I've never been able to do it for more than like 25 seconds. Every time I see an aerial view of the space that I'm in with my eyes closed, it's distorted. It doesn't look quite like it does in real life, and I'm not there, which is the weirdest thing.
You can't see yourself?
No, and I'm supposed to be able to, but I just don't think I've gotten to that level of focus yet where I can see it with clarity.
So here's what I'm curious about. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, this whole point of this is to like see it, right? I mean, future, what at present. And if you're seeing a distorted version of your room, then how much of it is just your creative mind working instead of what you're physically see? I mean, or
what's actually there from the
spiritually
past or
seeing.
future.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of it really is what you're trying to accomplish versus creative mind?
I guess that's why this isn't stone cold fact.
Sure.
Because it's that easy to write off.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, when you're doing these tapes, you're in waking consciousness. So I'm not accidentally thinking of random things because I'm not in a sleep state.
So if that's the case, then why do you think? I mean, obviously you don't know, but why do you think you're seeing a distorted?
Seeing distorted stuff. I think because I'm not to that level of focus yet. I'm not clearly enough in the dimension in which I would need to view that.
How much
I'm
of that
not-
you think is distraction too?
It's entirely that. It's
Yeah.
entirely distraction. There was this one time where I thought about this girl that I dated like 2 years ago, and she came up while I was in the middle of leaving, and the entire vision I had in my mind just faded. The entire thing within a couple seconds. But
Amazing.
not only that, what was really cool is the vision I saw got closer, as if I was going back down, and then it faded. So every time when I see it, I'll envision the four walls only of my living room and nothing beyond the living room. I won't be there, but it'll be an aerial view of the hardwood floor, my living room, and then a bunch of different objects scattered throughout the living room that I can't make out. Just a bunch of incoherent stuff, and none of it is mine, as far as I can tell. Different shapes, different objects. There'll be like cylinders, and there'll be like squares, and like, you know, maybe papers laid out and stuff, and it'll be a mess. And it's not the way that I have my living room, but it's a bunch of random stuff in a space that I know is my living room.
Could you make out what kind of papers?
No,
Or was it
I
just random?
try and look every single time closely at what the things are, and I can never make out what they are. The one thing that I've been able to distinguish physically is a surfboard. What I'm wondering is whether or not they are things from individuals that used to live in my apartment, or maybe will in the future. This is
Well, I
all
was gonna say, well, in the
incoherent.
future.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this yet, so I don't know if I'm mixing streams, so to speak. I don't know if I'm seeing my space in present time like I should, or if I'm seeing my space in the past, or if I'm seeing some culmination of the both, if that's possible. Because I'm seeing all sorts of stuff that I know that I don't have in my living room, but I'm seeing a relatively clear picture of it, and it's just incoherent stuff that is not mine.
So
What
you
I was
said
gonna-
you saw.
I was
You
going
go.
to ask real quick, how much do you think it could be anxiety too? I mean, just taking form in a different way, and that's why you
Yeah,
can't
who
make
knows?
it out, and you know it's kind of getting confusing and hectic, and then you know as that kind of goes on, almost your subconscious mind, I could imagine, is getting anxious as to trying to figure this stuff out,
Yeah, anxiety and expectation maybe,
which becomes a
because
distraction.
My goal with this is to astral project, and so every time I kind of get into it, I try hard to
Yeah.
go higher up and to see closer what it is, and I feel like that maybe adulterates the vision I'm already getting.
Totally.
Maybe I should just accept what I'm getting, and it'll get better over
See
time.
where it takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I set expectation, and you're not supposed to do that within.
So when
within the
you're
realm of meditation.
when you're looking at these items, are you kind of confused when you're in the
Super
moment? You're like,
confused.
why is this there? Instead of just kind of accepting it.
Yeah, and
that's
I'm
part of your
probably
left brain,
adulterating my
too.
thoughts. The fact that I'm thinking about it too
You're-
much.
yeah,
I'm
you're-
I'm
you're
probably
That's your left
thinking it.
brain.
corrupt. Yeah,
Left
yeah,
hemisphere,
it is.
totally.
It is. Yeah, I'm judging, and I'm trying to make a determination as to what the heck these items are and why they're here, as opposed to I'm finally doing this. My conscious has separated. Let me just experience.
So
Yeah,
I wanna-
I'm thinking and I'm judging essentially.
I almost think too, if it's almost kind of a downside that you're in a place that you recognize. You know what I mean? Like if you were in a totally desolate area, or an area that you weren't familiar with. I mean, how much of that you would accept versus when it's in your own room where you feel like
Yeah.
you know it.
Have you tried it anywhere else besides your room?
No, the only down part about that is I live in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
The quietest place I will get is my living room with my AirPods in on this muted mode. or
Try it
whatever.
at the lake, dude. You recommended it.
I'd
gotta
love
try
to.
it at the lake in the summer.
I'd love to.
Or
Yeah.
by like
Dark.
the tower or something down by the
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just
the
somewhere
far
just so
end even.
like just weird, like
The
random.
only thing you'll hear is crickets.
I also wonder too. I mean, when we talk about how you're trying to eliminate distractions and stuff like that, I mean, how much of the previous experience plays a part in the current one? Because when you get into that phase again, I guarantee you, your subconscious mind is thinking, all right, what happened last time? Okay, this happened last
Yeah.
time, and so how much of that plays a part into the new version of
It's
what you're
the
seeing?
concept of expectation again.
Totally.
And then I'll finish, and then there'll be a disappointment or excitement depending on how my experience was.
Do you record to what you experience?
No, but I remember it quite vividly. There are very few
Okay.
things I've forgotten. So even though the experience I've had aren't nearly as profound as what you should be able to accomplish as per these documents here, what they claim, they're still incredibly profound for me, because I started meditating back in 2019 when I did that meditation retreat in Thailand, and I had never really meditated before I found myself in the monastery with the monks in Thailand. And I got an accelerated learning via those monks, but I still was pretty bad at it. And the experiences I have in my living room in Portland are 100-fold more profound and extensive and just expansive in terms of my overall consciousness than what I had in Thailand next to monks, which is crazy. But I want to read this part. This is the thing. Before we started recording, I scanned through this for like 20 minutes trying to find this one specific sentence within the carbon copy of the gateway process, because I think this is just insanely profound, And this is a long document, so the first time I reviewed the whole thing, I watched a guy on YouTube who read the entire thing verbatim for me. And when he said this just shook me to my core, and this glued me in terms of interest to the gateway process, and I have not been able to step away from it since. It says, be intellectually prepared to react to possible encounters with intelligent, non-corporeal energy forms when time-space boundaries are exceeded. What that means is once you've astral projected, once you've disconnected your consciousness from your physical body, be intellectually prepared to interact with intelligent, non-corporeal, as in they don't possess bodies, non-corporeal energy forms when time-space boundaries are exceeded. Once you've exceeded that, be prepared in case you encounter some kind of other intelligent entity that exists within these different realms that we can send our consciousness to. I have no idea.
I wonder what that is.
I have no idea, and I'd love to find out.
Blob of light. If it's because it's not a body, so I just wonder what it is.
Yeah, they don't exist in physical space, so I don't know
Mhm.
what they are, but they could have malicious intent, and you need to be intellectually prepared to interact with these things.
How do they prepare you? Just by telling you?
Just what is it? Because it's intellectual ability to defend yourself, right?
So yeah, so what I think it might be is consciousness sent into these different planes by other physical beings as well. Maybe aliens that exist in a different star system that are just way more equipped to do these kinds of things than we are. So we experience, or rather we meet their consciousness in the same plane. It doesn't have to be something that only exists in that realm, but it could be. But the way that they prepare you is with something called a resonant energy balloon. What that is that they claim that there's a universal energy field everywhere in the world, and things can be sent and received via this energy field. But it's said that you pull energy from the energetic field around you, and what you do is your eyes are closed, you're in your highest focus state already, you're completely physically asleep. You imagine the number 10 in your mind with a glowing sphere around it, and then you take in a deep breath and you exhale. And when you exhale, you're supposed to envision a balloon of resonant energy around your body. It's supposed to come from your head, resonate down your entire body, and go back in through the bottoms of your feet and recycle like that. Pass through your entire physical body. So you've employed this balloon of protective energy around you via energy that you've harvested from the atmosphere, I guess, around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's called your resonant energy balloon. And you're supposed to imagine it so strong that nothing can penetrate it unless you want it to. So I imagine this like light blue visible sphere rotating around me pretty fast. And there's one point at the top of my head and one point at the bottom of my feet. And my being that my consciousness in different planes is my body in a vertical state, standing up like this, and you can see the energy rotating around it, and there's one point at the bottom of my feet, one point in the head where it comes out and then it sucks in and it just rotates around. It's just a sphere. And I imagine that if I encountered something that I wanted to receive information from, there's a slit in the bubble and it opens like this and it closes back up when I don't want anything else there. Apparently that's all it takes.
That is scary. I just wonder if you have a weak mind, how strong that barrier is.
There is
and if it
supposed
can
to
just
be
broken.
There's
easily.
some inherent level of risk with
Yeah.
doing this. There definitely is. And the thing I think is really profound is, like I said, this is a streamlined way to get to the same kinds of things that humans have been doing for thousands of years. And different religions have different interpretations of what this is. And the Catholic Church, for example, doesn't speak well on doing things like this. Leaving your physical body, going to different realms, using Ouija boards, things of that sort, because they think that non-corporeal energy forms that you could encounter, what do they refer to those as?
Demons. Yeah.
Demons, exactly. While they might not all be biblical demons, things that you can encounter in this realm,
But they're danger.
apparently some of them could be, malicious.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder what they are and what their intentions would be if you're in the infinite realm of nothingness in the seventh dimension, and whatever this higher being is just encounters a basic little human consciousness. Like, I could easily take advantage of this.
This is
There's nothing
definitely
else.
something that could go on for like 3 hours.
We're going to wrap this up. It's been going on for too long. This has been the Reconsider Reality podcast. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Reconsider Reality podcast is going to be the handle. Until next time, bye.